It's been quite a number of weeks now ever since we got the last look at the Seven Dwarfs through those leaked photographs that surfaced on the internet, where Disney lied about those leaked photographs being real, and then backtracking those claims a couple of days later, saying that yes, they're real, but they're not really photographed by official Disney photographers, quote unquote. And that's where everything began to unravel for Snow White 2024. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. And let's get right into exactly what's going on with Disney and the Snow White movie at hand. Now, we know that just today they got the official release date. Beforehand, it was always rumored about March of 2022. It's now officially locked in by Disney, unless things change, unless they want to delay this movie with, of course, the reshoots that they're trying to establish, which is going to be nearly impossible with all the strikes happening right now. But interestingly enough, we're going to be going over one significant development surrounding this film that I think is going to be quite an eye-opener, and it's quite a bombshell, because it goes to show you that Disney actually had a specific mapped-out strategy for this film that really got derailed, and how it really led to the film that we have today. And there's a lot of things going on with this. There's also a lot of things going on with Rachel Zegler, as you all know. We know that she has been making some very crazy comments, and has said crazy comments before in the past 2 whole years ago about this movie, and it only keeps getting worse for Gal, right? We know that she, as the evil queen, is going to be a very complex role, I think, for a lot of the Snow White or the Disney fans, so to speak, or whether or not they're going to really accept her portrayal of the character. However, with the Snow White 2024 film getting much more backlash from fans lately based on Zegler's comments on the film, the leaked photos of the Seven Dwarfs, and more, one major development has to do with what Disney did with the Snow White film for its marketing purposes, and how this sheds light on their ongoing agenda. Before filming began, there were plans to insert CGI recreations of the Seven Dwarfs, at first, that would be modeled after the 1937 original and would have their original names given. Now, this was a plan that was all mapped out by Disney and director Mark Webb at the time, when he was chosen and the film was to be called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. These plans quickly shifted and progressed to taking out the traditional dwarfs and keeping actual dwarfs to play the roles on the table, and that actually fell apart as well. Instead, they followed the idea of the 7 magical creatures, to not offend the dwarfism community. Ironically, this happened after actor Peter Dinklage raised his comments about Disney and how everything was getting completely changed after that. They erased the subtitle of the movie, The Seven Dwarfs, from Snow White and stuck with just Snow White. So let me just pause here, because I want to get to something before I get to the next significant aspect of this development, is the fact that they were seeking to use CGI dwarfs, and basically we were going to get a CGI creation, yet also a little bit of a realistic touch to them, based on the 1937 original. I can kind of imagine in my mind how that would be done. They would probably look a little cartoony, but at the same exact time they would have lifelike textures, right? Lifelike looking clothing, skin, stuff like that, but they would have the traditional design. And I can see that's most likely the design that they were aiming for when it comes to the textures and the graphics of the CGI creations. Now, some fans may or may not have liked that. Some fans may have said that that would be very creepy to mix that with a live-action Rachel Zegler portraying Snow White. I could understand that, and that's why they had a plan B, was to get actual dwarfs to play the roles, and that too fell apart once Peter Dinklage started raising his, overall concerns about this movie and was getting very opinionated about it. And, it's kind of crazy how Peter Dinklage was being treated as, like, the speaker of all people that have dwarfism, and how basically he was the cause of putting them out of work, at least for this movie, and setting a prime example to other studios that, you don't really need people like that. That's the message that's getting across out there, and I feel bad for those out there like Jason Acuna, aka Wee Man. The fact that these people rely on these minute jobs that really aren't given out all that often, let alone given out to a specific series of people, right? It's a very tough business to get into, let alone for regular, hype people. So, Peter Dinklage only made their jobs worse, more difficult to get into the Hollywood business, to the film industry, and it seems like that's going to now become a trend, unfortunately, among major studios. But this is where things get worse. Let's discuss more. So, on top of that, in this story, the 7 magical creatures, up and coming, all have unique powers, and that this was said to have been inspired from a Snow White movie by 20th Century Studios called Happily Ever After from 1989. It's animated, in which the 7 dwarfs have female cousins called the dwarfs. They all have each a unique power, one of which could control the weather, for example. And in the upcoming Snow White, one of the 7 dwarfs or magical creatures can even alter life, such as the growth of plants and fruits, etc. This is part of one of the cuts of the current Snow White film that was inspired from Happily Ever After and taken from that movie. As it turns out, Peter Dinklage derailed the plans for this movie, but this doesn't make Disney a saint at all. They already had backup plans to pursue the new types of dwarfs being regular high people if the CGI and the regular dwarfs did not work out to begin with. In the end, it was always Disney's idea, but Peter Dinklage gave Disney the final push. So look, like I say, the fact that we have a lot of trades coming out today, after the release date was officially made for March of 2024 for Snow White, there's a lot of trades that are saying crazy things. For example, they think that this movie is going to be a box office success, and how it's expected to be a box office success. I think they're just saying that in these articles just because, and we already know that everything is just going downhill at this point. I don't really know about you guys, but we have a lot of things going on with the Hercules movie right now, regardless of that being on a lockdown development-wise. They're still seeking people to get cast for the movie, and there's been a lot of word, and I know people have mixed reactions on this, and some people don't like this, some people do like this, but Ariana Grande is being eyed, and I say eyed, it's not final, she is being eyed to portray Megara in the Hercules live-action remake, which, by the way, we might not be getting that until 2025 anyway, but there are a large number of, candidates to portray Megara, and Ariana Grande just so happens to be one of them. So just be aware about that. I just want to add to that story a little bit there. It is circling around, and it is true that Disney is, considering picking Ariana Grande to get that role. But the 7 dwarves, guys, Snow White 2024, it just looks like it's going to be a disaster, and it could very well derail all future live-action remakes. So, anyway, guys, drop a comment below. Fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon,